Good evening and welcome to Studio Theater. At this time, please silence all cell phones or any other noise-making device. The use of any unauthorized audio or video recording is strictly prohibited. If you must leave, please do so in between pieces during the applause. Also, feel free to, during the program, follow the program on your phone. Please enjoy the performance.
welcome. I hope you all had a QR code that you were able to scan and get the program. There are a ton of super interesting visuals in there in addition to the actual program that I'm hoping you will enjoy during the course of this lecture recital. So the first piece is named Refulgencias, and it translates roughly to lightnesses. So like the different lights that happen throughout the day, like warm afternoon sun through the window, or like sort of the last rays of it as it comes through at sunset. Sergio Delgado is a really, really amazing Costa Rican composer, and he's professor of clarinet and piano and music theory for the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Education in Costa Rica. As I understand it, he actually improvises these compositions that he makes and then writes them down and hands them to us poor souls who have to then figure them out. So it's a blast, and if you're looking for someone to commission, he's a great option for a new piece. The next piece I will be playing is called Offspring, and it's sort of a play on words. It was written for me and Taylor Sturm, who was my roommate at Arizona State University, which coincidentally is where Dr. Oberlander went and got her master's and doctorate. But me and Taylor were roommates there and fellow clarinets in the clarinet studio, and it was such an amazing time for us, and I think a lot of people really felt that way. And there was a tribute concert that Teresa Martin, the composer, put together at the International Clarinet Association's Clarinet Fest in 2023, and she wrote this piece for me and my friend Taylor to premiere on it. And I think it's a really wonderful sort of continuation of that play on the words, like we are the offspring of Dr. Robert Spring. And so is Lisa, so it's really a pleasure to share this piece with her on stage. I also want to thank her before she gets up here for doing this, because I know it's not a small ask, and I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you letting me come here to do my PhD research, because it's been a blast, and I've learned so much. So I will welcome Lisa to the stage. So this lecture recital is in 3 parts, and this is now part 2. So double clarinet is when you play like literally 2 clarinets at once. It was invented by this awesome guy named William O. Smith. He was a founding member of the Dave Brubeck Quartet, Dave Brubeck Octet, just a really, really amazing guy. I wrote a whole bunch of like bullets in your QR code in case you're curious about other just fun facts and things that he was up to. But he did a lot of really amazing things for both the classical world of clarinet playing and the jazz world of just general like jazz giants and classical stuff. He, among other things, won 2 Guggenheim Prizes and the Prix de Rome, which provided the opportunity to study at the American Academy in Rome. And while he was in Rome, he saw all these really amazing frescoes, paintings of like in Greece, in Athens, and they all had these people playing, well not all of them, but a lot of them had like people playing two sort of flutes at once, one with each hand. And he saw those and he was like, well, the clarinet can do that, obviously, and I'm gonna do it. And he did. Coincidentally, while he was in Rome, he was also categorizing basically hundreds of multiphonics for clarinet that had never existed before. He heard a piece by Darius Milhaud on flute and decided, oh, we can do that for clarinet as well. So he just invented multiphonics, hundreds of multiphonics, and cataloged them so that players like me and a lot of the clarinetists in the audience could use them, and composers could use them to make really amazing new music. So, I added a picture of me and Bill, because Bill passed away, unfortunately, a couple of years ago, but I had the incredible pleasure of meeting him at one of his residencies at Arizona State University. He did 3 of these over the course of his lifetime. He had a really good relationship with my former teacher, Robert Spring, the one that the piece Offspring was inspired by. And I was able to meet him and have a chat and just hear about the amazing adventures and amazing things that he had done throughout his life. So I'm very grateful to have met him. So in like double clarinet playing, there are a couple ways that you could do it. You could do like both pipes moving independently, so 2 different melodies, or you can do it one with like a drone pipe and then the other one playing a melody over the top. And the drone pipe and the melody over the top is sort of the traditional Greek way, but there were a lot of clarinet-like instruments from ancient Greece that did music like this. So there were scenarios where you had 2 independent lines going as well. I am going to take a moment to get set up because this is no small feat just generally. So if you want, you can read the bullets in the QR code about Bill Smith. And you'll also notice there are a variety of pictures coming up, which will be fun, I think. I think they were fun. What you think is up to you. I get to tune my 2 halves of a clarinet that were never intended to be played in halves at all. I get to tune them to each other. So you get to listen to me do that. I think that's pretty close. So the next piece I'm playing was written by Bill Smith. I'm actually only playing the 6th movement of it because I wanted to stick to the double clarinet stuff, and I wanted to elaborate a little bit on the 2 styles of double clarinet playing, which are, again, like the 2 independent pipes, or one doing a drone pitch and the other doing a melody over the top. So the 6th movement of epigrams is in ABA form, and the A sections that sort of sandwich it have a drone and then a melody over the top. So you can listen for that, and then in the B section in the middle, all hell breaks loose, and it's 2 independent lines for a little bit, and it's quite fun. So I hope you enjoy it, and this will be movement 6 of epigrams. And the way he wrote it, each of the movements has a little quote at the beginning, which is very cute, I think, and sort of reflects the idea of the piece. So the little quote for the sixth movement of epigrams is, "You must be the change you wish to see in the world," by Gandhi. So I couldn't just stop at playing the music. I decided that I had to go on an all-those hunt. I had to learn absolutely everything there was to know about the Greek double clarinet and this instrument that had inspired the double clarinet that I'm playing now. Because this, is not a Greek thing, but the Greek thing was a precursor to what we do now. So thousands of years ago this span, and we're still playing similar music or music that is inspired by what happened then. So I actually went to Athens in Greece. I live in Dublin, so it's not so far. I found this ridiculously cheap airline ticket, and I went in January of this year, and I went through all the museums, and I was hoping that I would find things. And before I went, I looked extensively on the websites. I'm like, where do I target my search? How do I spend, the time that I have as efficiently as possible to find all of these artifacts? And I found almost nothing, no listings of museum things. And I thought it was quite bizarre because there's so many Greek artifacts everywhere in the museums in Athens. And it turns out, and this was sort of the theme of my exploration and my all-those hunt through the city, is that a lot of these things just weren't digitized, or some were even mislabeled, which is a little bit sad, but I guess the moral of that story is that if you want to know something, you just got to go and find it. You can't rely on the internet, even in the information age, unfortunately. So I went, and this will be where your QR code is very essential. So I hope you are looking at the QR code and all of the awesome images that I took, because these images don't really exist on the internet. You can't find them unless you show up in Athens and go to the museums and go on a hunt, because they're not even labeled, half of them. So I went to Athens, and one of the first things I found was this little figurine, marble figurine of a double clarinetist, and it was sitting right next to another figurine who was playing the harp. One of those looks almost like an ancient Irish harp. And at first I was disappointed, because I'm like, wow, these things are a little worse for wear. You couldn't have found a better artifact for me? This is the best we got. And then I read the little placard that says, what the thing is, and gives you more information. It says, figurine of flutist of Parian marble. The musician plays the double flute standing firmly on the ground. A three-dimensional expansion in space is apparent, placing it among the other musician figurines among the masterpieces of Cycladic sculpture. So Cycladic is like the precursor to ancient Greeks. It's like the ancienter Greeks. And then I saw the date. Early Cycladic, 2800 to 2300 BC. I was like, oh, it's no wonder it's a little worse for wear. The thing's 4,500 years old. So that was pretty awesome to find. And the reason it was displayed in the case next to the harp figure was actually, it was a joint grave. So it was the aulos player and the harp player were buried next to each other in sort of a musician's homage grave to their playing. So I thought that was super cool. A quick example of the mislabeling situation, if you scroll to the slide directly under the little figures. So if you zoom in really a lot, and I know like I had my face pressed against the glass. I'm sure the guards were thinking, who is this moron and why is she fogging up and breathing all over the glass on our displays? But it's mislabeled. So if you look at the little number, it says number 8. So I went to the corresponding, okay, 8, which one is that? What is that? And it says Attic white ground lekithos. I'm probably butchering that. Scene of the pentathlon, javelin discus foot race, unknown provenance. So they're saying that's a javelin. But if you look, the end of it is split in the image. And on the next thing down, a different label for a different vase thing in the case says, the flute player provides the rhythm for the discus throwers who are training. And there is no other thing in the case that has an instrument on it. I checked very thoroughly. I was breathing all over the glass, believe me. So they just mislabeled it. Like they actually mislabeled this artifact in their museum, which I'm like, this is your instrument, y'all, get on board. So I thought that was super interesting, and I took pictures of all the others. I won't go through all the other captions because you can read, you have them in front of you. So if you get bored, you can doom scroll your way through the captions and the images of all of these stuff that I found, because I had a nerd moment and I just spent hours and hours and hours finding these things in museums. There's kind of a cool backstory to the aulos, because the Greeks always have the cool backstories, right? They got all the myths, all the great, the Odyssey, all that stuff. It's just sort of built into their culture. And the aulos myth I find particularly funny because it starts with Athena, the goddess Athena, who is super big into the arts and stuff. And she invents the aulos, and she's like, this is awesome. I am awesome. I have invented this thing that you can play. It's an amazing musical instrument. And then she looks at herself in the mirror, sees that her cheeks are puffed out, and was like, oh my God, I look ugly. Goodbye. And just chucks it off Mount Olympus, as the myth goes. So, I mean, we all know here, good clarinetists, that we don't puff our cheeks when we play the clarinet, right? So clearly she's doing something wrong. But she chucked it off Mount Olympus, and this satyr, this half-goat, half-dude person picks it up. His name's Marsyas, and apparently he's a very well-educated half-goat dude. And he thinks that this is the best thing ever, and he learns how to play it, and he gets super, super good, and he gets a little full of himself, and he thinks, I'm gonna challenge my man Apollo to a duel, because challenging the gods to a duel is always a great idea, and you can see where this is going. So he challenges Apollo. Apollo plays the lute, Marsyas plays the double clarinet, the aulos, and of course Marsyas loses, come on. And he gets flayed alive because Apollo was pissed off that he was challenged. So the moral of this story is don't challenge the gods, which I suppose is a very Greek moral of this story. But interesting story all the same, at least to me. So I actually found another museum where it had the actual instrumental artifacts. These are obviously not from 2000 BC, but they are instruments from a private collection that was owned and then donated to the Athens government. And you've got pictures of those in the QR code as well that I hope you are all looking at. I can't see anything up here because the lights are blinding me, so I'm going to assume that you are all just as enraptured as I was by the double clarinet. So I took a picture of the display case that had obviously a lot of things in it that I hope you can see. And then I took a picture zoomed in of what corresponds to 32 to 39 on the little like answer key of what am I looking at. And those are all those things. And in these these were from Crete, the island of Crete, and they were actually single reed instruments. And you can see that some of them have more holes and some of them are longer than others. So in the set, the ones that were longer played which one is it? I have to remember. Okay, the longer one played the melody. No, the shorter one played the melody, and the longer one played the drone pitch. So that's sort of the like the A section of the epigrams movement that I just played would be like what those were playing in ancient Greece, which I think is awesome. And the other really fun fact is that the instruments, like everything in these cases, they were made by the players who played them. So it was just common if you wanted to learn, an instrument or play an instrument in ancient Greece that you would just make one from either like a piece of cane or like a wing bone of some bird or whatever, but you just carve it yourself. So this whole like foray into ancient Greece and Athens and double clarinets, I totally blame my dear friend Paco for. Francisco Javier de Alba is his name, and he's the composer of the next piece that I'm about to play. And I commissioned him to write something a couple years ago for the European Clarinet Association's concert. And he said, great, what do you want me to write? And I'm like, you know what, I think you're awesome, you're amazing, Paco. I give you complete artistic freedom, you can do whatever you want. And he said, awesome, so you've done demi-clarinet before, right? And I'm like, no, I have not. He's like, oh, that's okay, it's easy. And sometimes you play both of them together. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, but trust me, it'll be easy. You've got a month to learn the piece, that's plenty of time. You'll learn it, it'll be great. So he writes me this thing, and it was definitely an adventure because he didn't tell me that he also wanted me to circular breathe for an entire page, playing two of them at once. So I was like, gee, thanks, Paco. And now I'm like, thanks, Paco, you made me look really cool. Because I'm not sure anybody else that I know can circular breathe on two clarinets at once. If any of you can, let me know if you know anybody. But Paco is amazing. He will write you literally anything, and he's a brilliant composer. He's also a CSU alum, so he was performing on this stage and sitting where you all were sitting not so many years ago. So you should contact him and have him write you something because he's an amazing guy. Yeah, so I guess without further ado, I will play Misnomer. Oh, and it's called Misnomer. It's sort of a shared inside joke from both of our time at Arizona State. We played in the ensembles together and we sat next to each other. And maybe that was part of the problem because we had a band director who would just never get our names right, ever. Like, never. Every single time. He would call Paco Pablo, which is like really bad, and he would call me Kathleen, and my name is Katherine. And it got to the point where like me and Paco, it was such a joke to us that we would like walk into the band room, see the other person sitting on the other side and go, hi, Pablo, how are you? And he'd shout back, hey, Kathleen, what's up? And at some point, we realized that Gary must have figured it out because he turned really bright red when we did this, and then we stopped doing it. But he never did call us by our correct names. So to this day, I will call Paco Pablo when I see him. And his wife is even in on the joke. She thinks it's hilarious, too. So I can call him Pablo to both him and his wife. But anyway, this piece was also inspired somewhat by epigrams, which is another really lovely connection in this program. And so just like epigrams had the little quote before each movement was played, this one also has a quote, and it goes along with the name, which is Misnomer, the name of the piece. So I shout very loudly and emphatically at all of you, this is a clarinet, even though you know full well that it is not a clarinet. It's half a clarinet at best. And my name is Kathleen, and Paco's name is Pablo. So this is a clarinet. a clarinet. Singular clarinet I checked with Paco. Thank you all very much for joining me on my clarinet nerd adventure, or double clarinet nerd adventure. All right, and that brings us to the third portion of the recital. I have a drink of water because it's really dry up here. Okay. So the next segment is Irish traditional music. And, where to begin? I feel like I have to tell you a little bit about Ireland, just for everybody who hasn't been, or even everybody who has, just so that you can get like in the right sort of vibe for this. Which, first off, I want to play this last sort of section like we're all friends playing together at a trad session. I know a lot of you probably haven't been to a trad session, but trust me that we're all friends and we're all very much going to enjoy this. So at a trad session, we all sort of chill and drink, usually quite a lot. There's usually one fiddle player who decides that they're going to load up on coffee at 9 o'clock at night, but the rest of the people are 2, 3, 4 pints of Guinness in. And somebody just starts playing a piece and everybody else is like, oh yeah, I know that one, and they just hop on and everybody goes and it's a merry time. And nobody claps, so I'll have you save your applause to the very end of everything. You'll know when it's the end. But anyway, I want us to all be friends here and sort of enjoy this music together. So I want to give you a quick Irish grammar lesson before we get started. So Irish grammar, very important. You don't say Tuesday, you say Tuesday. Like with a CH, you chew the Tuesday. So if I tell you we're going to have a meeting Tuesday week at 5:30, that means 5:30 is 5:30 and week is next week, but they don't bother with the next. So they're like, oh yeah, I'll see you Tuesday week at 5:30. And then the other thing is they don't ever use the word went, which I found very annoying because I am sort of a grammar stickler. So I would say, oh yeah, I just went to the groceries or whatever, and they'd be, oh, you're just after going to the shops? I'm like, just after. Oh, why do we need this many words to say I went to go get groceries? So the Irish people are very down-to-earth people. They're very stubborn people. They like Americans quite a lot because we also rebelled against the Brits, so they like to think there's some solidarity in British hatred. But a really funny thing is, like, you cannot take the fight out of the Irish people at all. So years ago, 60, 70 years ago, something like that, I don't remember the date, but the Irish government was like, every other country that we know of charges for like water utilities. Like a water bill is a thing. Like how much water you use, like there's a meter and you pay based on like usage. And that makes sense because the government's footing the bill for like purifying the water and making sure it goes to your house. So the Irish people were not paying any like water utilities up to this point, and the Irish government is like, okay, yeah, so we're gonna go around, we're gonna install water meters in all y'all's houses, and we're gonna make sure that you pay for your water utilities because like the government cannot continue to foot this bill. And the Irish people were like, no. And the government went out and they installed water meters in every single house in the entire country of Ireland. It was no small task. And they started sending out bills, and the entire country of Ireland collectively defaulted on their water bills. Right? I'm like, America could not. Like, the government would like, I don't know, the military would be out knocking on doors and saying like, pony up, man. But yeah, that's just how Ireland is. Yeah, I rent like a granny cottage in the backyard of this like super sweet grandparent-y older couple. They've got like 15 grandkids, traditional big Irish Catholic family. And I was chatting with them once at the end of the evening because I cannot walk by them without a chat. Like, it's not humanly possible for them to not notice me and initiate a conversation of some sort. And we're chatting, and then all of a sudden, Martin, my landlord, gets a call from one of his kids, and he's like, oh, yeah, hold on, it's Edel. Ah, yeah, Edel, what's up? Yeah. Oh, your car's got a boot on it, it has. Oh, well, did you not pay for the parking ticket? Oh, you looked and you didn't see one. You did. Oh, now you've got a boot, and you got to drop the kids off from their school. Oh, that's just no good. Hang on, Edel. I'll go and I'll charge up my angle grinder and I'll be there in 30 minutes. And he went with his angle grinder and ground the boot off, and off Edel was to pick up her kids. And that's about how it goes in Ireland. Yeah. It was like, nobody keeps track of which car is booted. Like, somebody's going to start because Martin's going to take all the boots off. Anyway, so I also put some pictures in your PowerPoint or your QR code thing, and they're all pictures I took because I think it's a really beautiful country. And if you go, you should see the Cliffs of Moher. They're very famous. That scene with like Harry Potter and the Horcrux in the cave, that's filmed like outside the Cliffs of Moher. And they're also the Cliffs of Insanity, if you're into Princess Bride. Great cliffs, you should go see them. If you take the ferry to the Aran Islands, then the ferry just passes right by the cliffs on your way back, and it's gorgeous. And it was like €40 for a ticket, so round trip ticket for a day just to hike around the Aran Islands. It's amazing. There's also a picture of Black Castle in Wicklow Town. That's the upper right-hand picture. So you can see the cliffs sort of, I'm sitting there, you know, looking all, yeah, I took that picture from my dating profile and it clearly didn't work, but I tried really hard. Anyway, so there you can see the castle over the top, and it's like the ruins. They built this into the side of the cliffs, and I think it's just a gorgeous country. If you're in Center City, Dublin, there's a river that splits the city in half. Oh, someone lost their QR presentation. And it's called the Liffey River, and it's a really wonderful river. It splits everyone into like North Dublin and South Dublin, and traditionally like North Dublin were the scrappers and South Dublin was where the money was at. And they've got this monument that apparently there's this like really big competition to figure out who was going to have a monument on like in Center City, Dublin, and they erected this thing, and the winning like monument design was a giant metal pole that just went up and up, like straight up, just a metal stick. And the Irish people absolutely hate it, and they call it the Stiffy on the Liffey. So anyway, on to trad. So I'm going to give a really, really quick rundown of how to play trad. So you'll see a really big quote. It says, "The tune has to survive its encounter with you." So my teacher told me this the second I walked through the door. He's a banjo player, and he says, this is like the biggest thing about this, because this is an oral tradition, right? Like it was passed on and on and on and on through families. Like the tune has to be preserved. Everything else is secondary to the tune. So like in jazz for us, the tune is very much like not important at all. It's the chords, right? The foundation. So you can improv anything you want over the chords, and we often do. But in Irish music and Irish traditional music, the chords actually are secondary. Like obviously we have like tonic, predominant, dominant that is underlying everything, but you can change the chords however you see fit. Your arrangement is your arrangement. It doesn't matter as long as the tune is preserved. The tune has to survive its encounter with you. So I'm going to go through some tunes. The first one is called The Beautiful Goldfinch, and it was written by a flute player and maker. He makes and plays flutes. He's still actually alive. So these tunes, the canon still gets added to, and I really love this one. It's called The Beautiful Goldfinch. And if you learn Irish tunes, I've listed two like little resources next to that, which are the session.org and the TunePal app. TunePal was designed by Irish people to recognize Irish tunes being played. So if you turn TunePal on at a session, it'll listen to what like trad piece is being played, give you the music and a recording, which is awesome. So if you want to play along and learn it, you can. The session has a list of sort of everything, every version of the piece, which brings me to there are a lot of problems with learning trad as like a very classically trained player, which your first problem is the transposition, because they're all in C major, like they're in concert pitch, like fiddles, banjos, flutes, uilleann pipes, they're all concert pitch. You are the odd one out. So you're gonna play B flat clarinet or you're gonna play A clarinet, because they really love their sharps, but the flutes are made out of the same wood, the African blackwood, the grenadilla, that clarinets are made out of, and I think B-flat clarinet blends a lot better with the timbre of the flutes. And since I am the odd man out, I'm not the standard instrument, I'm trying to blend, so I pick B-flat. That's my choice. And the transposition that comes with that. I could have transposed all these tunes for you in the PowerPoint, but I didn't because it seems inauthentic. And we're all at this session together. So if you really have to use the music, which nobody at the session ever uses the music ever, then you're going to read in concert pitch and you're going to figure it out. So the next problem is region, because depending on which region you're from, every tune is slightly different. So if you're playing with the Galway crew, then they're going to play one version, and it's maybe 80% of the version you learn, but not quite. Or if you're playing like Dublin City Centre, that's a different version. Or if you got County Donegal up in near Belfast, then those people have their own version too. And your family might have a version because this is passed down orally. So you got to just listen and figure out with the crew you're playing with what version they're actually playing. Yeah, no sheet music allowed, so you just gotta listen. And then ornamentation is the other really big one, because the notes on the page, one, we've established that they're only 80% correct because you don't know which version you're playing or which version everybody around you is playing, but also they don't have any of the ornaments. And the ornaments are like the bread and butter of Irish music, because you can't change the melody, right? Like the melody is king. It has to survive its encounter with you. You cannot mess up that melody. But what you can do is make it your own. So the ornaments are where you as a player sort of create your own thing. And when you're playing with other people, you can make arrangements. So like you and the banjo player will take a chorus, and then the harps and the fiddles will take a chorus, whatever. But to make it your own, you have to learn the ornaments. And as a clarinet player, I was like, well, there's no other clarinetist doing these ornaments, right? Like I can't steal from the other clarinetists that have been passed down and passed down and passed down, so who do I listen to? And that's kind of the fun part for me, is I get to listen to everyone and I get to steal from everybody. So I've stolen things from banjo, but most of the time, because banjo is like most of the lessons that I've taken, which I never thought I would be taking lessons from a trad banjo player, but it's the most fun thing ever. But I usually steal from the uilleann pipes and the fiddles and the flute. Those are the people that usually have things that work with this. So I'm going to play The Beautiful Goldfinch, just a little bit of it, the way I first played it, sitting down with all of my classical training in its full glory. And I played it like this. And they were like, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? That's what's printed. Like, that was the music that you gave me. I have no idea what you're doing over there. And they're like, no, there's kind of a lilt to it. Like, it doesn't swing like jazz, but like you're 3 pints in, okay? So try again. Okay, so we got the lilt. There's still no ornaments. And there's several different sort of ornaments that they use depending on where you're at. And flutes also often vibrato with their fingers. So like you'll hear me at cadence points going, because that's the vibrato that you'll hear from them. It's usually not with their abs, it's with their fingers. So I stole that. And then, you know how when you're playing your scales and suddenly your articulation doesn't match with your fingers and it goes blip, 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 blip? Yeah, you all know this. I've heard you do it. So we do this intentionally in trad. Let's see if I can do it. It's hard to slow down. But you kind of like stumble a bit. You shift your finger before the articulation, and then suddenly you've got like a very standard ornament. And they love turns, especially right before cadences. So you got to kind of throw turns in there. And then they like fast turns just randomly to show off. So if you want to show off, then do fast turns randomly. But underneath all this ornamentation, somebody's going to slap you if you adulterate the tune too much. Like, not really, but actually kind of. Like, you will get a lecture. The tune has to survive. So you listen to other people, you find out what's acceptable ornamentation, you mimic for a really, really, really long time, you just copy what other people are doing, because you're like, well, they know what they're doing, so if I do that long enough, I might get a sense of what's going on here. And I did that for a while, and now I can finally ornament things in a way that I get, and I'm like, yes, I've made it, I've figured it out. So this is Goldfinch again, but with the proper ornament. Totally different. And it's way more fun. And I love doing the little like stutter thing with the tongue and the scales because it makes it sound like bird chirps. Which seems very apt for a Goldfinch tune. But anyway, so the next couple things I'm going to play are a set of jigs, and they're usually, like in a session, you play like pairs of things. So each like individual tune has a form, but then you take the tune and you stack it with something similar. So I say I'm pairing 2 jigs together. It's 2 pieces that are 6/8 that are approximately the same tempo with the same feel. And you can do that with any like genre. Like Goldfinch is a waltz, so you could pair that. You have to pair it with another waltz. You can't just play one. I guess that's taboo or whatever. So you play 2 or 3 back to back. And the next 2 I'm going to do are called the Castle Jig and Father Kelly's Jig, or it's also called the Lochderg Jig. My Irish just came out. Woo! But yeah, so there's also like a weird thing is different air usage. Like my classical trainer prepared me for like one beautiful Brahmsian phrase. And like the accents, like the ab accents to match the dancers are such a thing. If you listen, you'll hear them. And let's see. I know I'm sort of butting up against time a little bit, so go straight from one tune into the next one. The first one is Sean Ryan's The Castle Jig. Sean Ryan is a master fiddler from County Tipperary. 1919 to 1985 are his dates. And I had to go through, like the session.com has the different tune versions. This was like the 10th one listed, and this is the one that he actually published. So if you can imagine 10 versions and there's 9 already more popular than the original one, that's what trad is. You're like, which one are we doing today? Who am I playing with? Where am I playing? What's going on? And you listen and you figure it out. Father Kelly's, or the Loch Derg jig. Father P.J. Kelly was an accordion player, and he was also actually a missionary. And he was a missionary priest. He went to Fiji, Pakistan, and Australia, and he died in 2006. He was about 80 years old. So cool guy. And he went out with a group of trad musicians and really popularized trad music in those areas. Obviously Fiji, Pakistan, and Australia. Well, Australia somewhat, but like Fiji and Pakistan do not have a massive Irish influence, or at least didn't when he was, talking about Christianity over there. So he popularized this music in addition to his sort of missionary work. The last one is also really interesting because most are like two parts, but this jig is a tripartite jig. So there's actually an A, a B, and a C. So the A section repeats, the B section repeats, the C section repeats. And you have all this music out there. So it's on the QR, and I will play it now. Starting with the castle and then going straight into the Loch Derg jig. So I'm going to end with one last one. And like there's sort of two types of traditional Irish music, and there's like the dancey type. So you've seen Irish dancing, like river dance. We all know Irish dancing. And then there's another one that comes from the Sean No singing tradition, which is just like very ancient. You have to hear it. Like I can't even describe it. But the one that comes from that side of things, we call them slow airs, like a slow Irish air. And these are really, really special pieces because they have to be learned by ear. So they're not metered, like there is no time. The time is felt by the performer and passed on orally through generations. So the whole, like the tune has to survive. These are some of like the oldest and most precious tunes that we've held on to. And they're usually played on a solo instrument, usually solo voice, so it's adapted to solo instrument. And ideally, you actually speak Irish, so you know the cadence of the words and how it matches the words with the phrasing. The one that I'm going to play for you, I only know two of these because it just takes ages to like learn them right and do them justice. But it's called An Bhuacha Ceildub, and it's the Dark Slender Boy. And it was, the words that we have were written by an 18th century poet named Sean Eric O'Shanahan, which in American English is Sean Eric O'Shanahan. And the words are from him, but the tune likely predates him. And the story is one of the classic like Irish traditional love stories. So there's this guy, the Dark and Slender Boy, the name of the tune, and he's like tall and sexy and has like dark hair. And he has this babe, and they're together, and they're really happy together. They're young, they're in love, but all the work is dried up in their tiny little town in Ireland. So he has to go travel, usually to England was the scenario, and find work somewhere else, usually very, very far away. And he loves her, but he has to eat, so he goes, and he finds work in another town. And he's been there, for a couple of years, working really hard, trying to save enough to, come back, but pay is hard. And he gets word that the one that he loves is set to marry someone else. So he's really heartbroken, and he makes the journey back to the town, but he makes it in disguise because he wants to know if it's true or what's going on. And he shows up in the town, and they're having the pre-wedding party. The wedding's the next day. They're all gathered, families are together, having the party, and he's in disguise, and he's sitting next to the woman that he loves. And he asks her, "Have you ever been in love before?" And she says, "Yes, I have. There was this boy ages ago, but he moved away, and he's gone now." That's the end of the story. Right? Right? I was so mad. I was like, what do you mean that, I need to know? What happened to them? Yeah, so maybe the song will tell you. I like to think mine is a more positive rendition. all so very much for coming. I appreciate all of you. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'll stick around for a little bit if you want to chat about the music or anything else. Thanks again.